Hello, and welcome to the Hatha Yoga Mama podcast. Today, we are going to be diving into the fun world of Ayurvedic medicine, or um, it's like an ancient Indian medicine, Ayurveda. Um, and basically, if you are a yogi or if you were a yogi in ancient times, this would have been what you went to if you were sick or anything of those matters. This is how basically Ayurveda is the science of self healing and how you use um, breathing practices, eating practices, mental practices, emotional practices, asanas, meditations, all of these things to heal yourself when your body is coming out of alignment and falling into illness or dis-ease, disease. Break it up. It's dis-ease, lack of ease, meaning illness. So basically, Ayurveda is the way to self correct using natural remedies and science on a very, very deep level. Um, I think like the Western world slash medicine slash science is like coming around to some of this stuff finally because they're very much if I don't see the proof first, like I don't believe it, blah blah blah. When like the proof is in the pudding, like Ayurveda is not a new fad. It is not a fake herbal magic pill that you're being passed over a counter. It is a 5,000 plus year old practice of medicines that have been passed down generation to generation to have one of the healthiest and longest living group of people in the world. Um, and yeah, I think you have to put give Ayurveda some credit for how healing it is, regardless of whether Western medicine has studied it enough to say that for them to approve that it's good for you or can cure you or what have you. So, anyway, without further ado, I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of an intro to Ayurveda. And one of the founding principles of Ayurveda is the tridoshas or the doshas. And they're basically like three different groups of basically what you kind of fall into, what type of body type and such that you fall into as a human being here on this planet. And nobody is any one dosha through and through, and that wouldn't be good if you were. The whole idea of the doshas is to be aware of them and to also balance your doshas. And it's not that you're ever going to really like change your natural dosha, um, but it's being aware of it and balancing it in other ways so that you, within your body, mind, and spirit, remain balanced in the most holistic way that you can. And so basically, a breakdown of the doshas is that in Ayurveda, there's five elements that make up Earth, that make up our experience here, um, of where we are. And that is um, air, fire, water, earth, and ether. And so, and I love this. I love this philosophy, and I love this, truth of being with the five principles, because a lot of times in Western world we look at just air, fire, water, earth, and we're like that's it. But in Eastern philosophy, in India, in Hinduism, in Buddhism, they have that fifth element, which is ether. And ether is described as not just air, because that's obviously already listed. Air is molecules, but ether is empty space for these things, for the other four elements to exist within. Because if there was not a space for that to be, then that could not be. So, thus, ether is an element, space is still an element, because without the space, you don't have earth or water or fire or air. You must have the space to hold those things. Um, so, those are the five elements that we all are being held within in this earthly realm that we reside. And with that, you have the three doshas. You have vata, you have kapha, and you have pitta. And so the vata dosha is linked to air and ether. It's linked to space and the lungs and movement, circulation, blood circulation, lymph circulation, waste circulation, um, removal of waste, things like that. Pitta is associated with fire and water, and is very much associated with digestion and um, things of that nature of the heating the body, of breaking food down, of all sorts of chemical reactions that happen within heat and water, um, is very much all ruled by Pitta. And then there's the Kapha dosha, which is much associated with water and earth. And so Kapha is just, yeah, a very earthly um, dosha and constitution. Um, and so overall, there's like several different types that you can be. You can be Vata, you can be Pitta, you can be Kapha. You could be Vata Pitta, you could be Pitta Kapha, you could be Vata Kapha, and Vata Pitta Kapha if you're like very balanced. And so like, but again, within the like, everyone's kind of a floater. For instance, I am Vata, a little bit of Pitta, mostly Vata though. Things that like kind of telltale signs of that is like thin skin, dry skin, which I have very dry skin at times, and uh, lots of things focused on the breath, which makes sense. I'm like a breathing teacher. Um, and so a lot of the things that I need to work on are within the kapha realm, which is like stability, energy, forgiveness, just all sorts of things. And I mean, each dosha has positive and negative annotations with it. They're not all bad, they're not all good. Vata is great because it's got movement, breathing, just lots of great motor functions and things. But also, you can get very ungrounded, you can get very anxious, you can get into anxiety. Where pitta, is all about, yeah, the body heat, temperature, digestion, things like that, hunger, thirst, intelligence, anger, jealousy, all of those things. And kapha are, kind of things that would go along with a kapha constitute would be like stability, energy, lubrication, um, accumulation, attachment, holding, possessiveness. So as you can hear in each of these, like, it's not all good, it's not all bad, which is what I love about Eastern philosophy. It's like nothing is great all on its own. Everything is in relation to another. There is no one thing that is wonderful by itself without being compared to nothing or to something else. Because if it's compared to nothing, then it doesn't really matter, you know? So basically, through the doshas, it's mostly taking your own self awareness, looking at these doshas and saying, yeah, I relate a lot to this, and I probably am kind of lacking here or there, or I'm a little bit too kapha here, or I'm too pitta there, or I'm too vata here. And then taking that awareness and doing something about it, taking action to create more balance within your body so that your external experience becomes more pleasurable. Because if we're not balanced within, our external world will very much reflect that. The microcosm and the macrocosm are on the same level, they're on the same wavelength, they're in the same vibration. And so if your microcosm within is anxious or tension or lack or greed or whatever, what have you, um, you're going to experience a lot of that in your external world. And so and it's usually, unfortunately, it's usually when we're seeing those things really rear up in our external world that we realize, like, whoa, time out. There's something wrong here in this internal world that I need to to correct. And I don't want to say wrong as if there's something wrong with you, but it's a course correction. It's we have veered too far off the path in one way and we need to course correct. And the only way to do that, and I think the best way to do that, is using this tri-dosha system, because it's then not going between these two extremes and you're not swinging between these pendulums, because you're always coming back to this point of balance of the three, of a tri, of a triangle is one of the strongest shapes you could possibly have in the world because of those 3 points of tension and how they come into each other and support each other when they are all very strong. And so that's basically the whole point of the tridoshas, is to understand, one, your natural tendencies, and those are just kind of set by genetics and by your parents and your lineage and DNA and all of those things. And then there's also the the balance you can seek and provide for yourself when you're aware of these things, that change your environment or your diet or your sleep habits or your exercise habits or whatever, what have you, to balance your own self internally to have a more rounded and joyous experience here on earth in this lifetime. And um so yeah, I believe that the tridoshas is just a really great start if you are just starting your holistic health journey or your yoga journey, or um, any realm of self healing. um, Ayurveda is a great place to start. If you want to know more about the tridoshas, I do have a little worksheet um, that you can have, and it'll kind of help break down. Basically, it's a checklist that breaks down like Pitta, Kapha, um, Vata, and then you can kind of check along each one and see kind of where your heaviest dosha is, like what your biggest constitution is, and then see like kind of where you are in the other areas. And it's really interesting to do this, and it'll change sometimes throughout your life a little bit. Sometimes in your life you might be a little bit more Pitta or a little bit more Kapha or whatever, what have you, but to just look at these things, and like Ayurveda is very holistic in the fact of a lot of it, they are like, a lot of what they teach is, one, like your diet, just what you eat is like what is going to heal you, and what you drink, your intake, and then also your thoughts and your emotions. And if you're they very much Ayurveda very much calls out the fact that if you're holding any sort of emotions within, that it's going to affect you in a negative way eventually if you do not let that go. And so they very much even just prescribe people to let go of those released emotions so that you can have, you know, true health. Because a lot of times it's our emotions that really start that disease and that health. And that like the downcline of our health. And I mean, I've been through it myself to where, yeah, when your mental space is not there, you can have the healthiest, quote unquote, healthiest body, but if your mind's not there and healthy either, then you're not actually healthy. So, yes, I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into Ayurvedic medicine and the philosophy behind Ayurveda through the five elements and the three tridoshas, and how you can take those and start to course correct or balance out your own internal world through things that you eat, drink, exercises, meditations, and releasing of emotions. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, my friends. And I will talk with you soon. If you want that worksheet to figure out your dosha or your constitution, again, just follow me on Instagram. I am at Hatha Yoga Mama, and shoot me a DM with the word dosha. That's DOSHA, and I will send you the PDF worksheet that you can do to find out your dosha. All right, friends, one love. Have a wonderful day, night, evening, what have you, wherever you are in the world. And we will talk soon. Right on.